The girl's body lay still, a crimson stain blooming on the cold, metallic table. They thought it was over. They were wrong. The sterile laboratory hummed with the low thrum of life support systems, a stark contrast to the lifeless form at its center. A young girl, no older than 15, lay sprawled on the cold durasteel, her once vibrant eyes now dull and vacant. A pool of blood, dark and viscous, spread beneath her, a macabre halo against the clinical white. Around the table, several figures in pristine white lab coats observed the scene with a detached air. One, a reptilian being with iridescent scales, sighed softly. A regrettable incident, it hissed, its forked tongue flicking nervously. But contained, thankfully. The fallout should be minimal. Another, a towering insectoid with multifaceted eyes, clicked its mandibles in agreement. Indeed, a minor setback. The council will be pleased to hear of its resolution. Their relief was short-lived. A ripple distorted the fabric of space near the station, followed by a blinding flash of blue-white light. A hyperspace window ripped open, spewing forth a swarm of vessels that dwarfed the council station. The lead ship, a colossal dreadnought overflowing with weapons, bore the insignia of the Human Systems Alliance, a stylized Earth encompassed by a laurel wreath. Retribution had arrived. The Galactic Council, a loose assembly of species spanning a vast sector of the galaxy, prided itself on diplomacy and order. But beneath the veneer of unity lay a tangled web of rivalries, hidden agendas, and simmering tensions. Maintaining control over its diverse members was a constant struggle, a delicate balancing act that often teetered on the brink of chaos. The Human Systems Alliance, a relative newcomer to the galactic stage, was a different beast altogether. Young, ambitious, and fiercely protective of its citizens, the HSA was known for its military might and its unwavering purpose. They were not a species to be trifled with. Admiral Jake Phillips, a veteran of countless skirmishes and border disputes, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the HSA Dauntless, his face a mask of grief and disbelief. The news of his niece's death had hit him like a physical blow, leaving him numb and reeling. He stared at the datapad in his hand, the official report a cold, sterile document that offered little comfort. Accidental death during a joint human-draconis scientific experiment, it declared. But Jake knew better. He saw the inconsistencies, the carefully worded phrases, the glaring omissions. He remembered Sarah, his bright, inquisitive niece, her laughter echoing through his sterile apartment during his last leave. He remembered promising her he would always protect her. Now she was gone, and something felt terribly wrong. "Sir," his comms officer interrupted, "preliminary scans indicate multiple anomalies in the Council's report. Energy signatures don't match their stated experiment parameters." Fueled by suspicion and haunted by memories of his niece, Jake made a vow. He would uncover the truth, no matter the consequences, no matter the political ramifications. He would bring those responsible to justice. "Initiate a discreet investigation into the circumstances surrounding the experiment," he ordered, his voice tight with barely suppressed rage. His officers exchanged uneasy glances. "Sir, are you sure that's wise? This could trigger a major intergalactic incident." "I am well aware of the risks," Jake snapped, "but I will not let this go unanswered." Council representatives, in a hastily arranged press conference, claimed the experiment was designed to find a cure for a rare genetic disease affecting both humans and draconis, downplaying the risks involved and offering condolences to the family. But Jake didn't buy it. He delved deeper into the classified files, uncovering a disturbing truth. The experiment wasn't about curing a disease. It was about manipulating draconis genetic traits, attempting to weaponize their unique abilities for HSA use. And his niece, Sarah, had been unwillingly involved. The HSA Science Minister, Dr. Aris Thorne, contacted Jake directly, his voice smooth and persuasive. "Admiral Phillips, I urge you to reconsider your course of action. Further investigation could irreparably damage HSA Council relations. This is a delicate matter best left to the diplomats. With all due respect, Minister, Jake replied, his voice cold, my niece is dead. Diplomacy can wait. He cut the connection and initiated a secure comm channel. Get me a line to Arya. Draconis scientist worked on the project, top priority. He needed answers and he suspected Arya held the key. The key to justice, or perhaps the key to interstellar war. Arya swallowed hard, her scales catching the dim light of the comms booth. All right, Admiral, I'll send you everything. But you need to understand, they are watching me. Jake's grip tightened on the worn metal of the console. How closely? Every comm, every movement, I'm under constant surveillance. Her voice trembled, static crackling on the line, a digital echo of her fear. I can encrypt the files, but it won't hide the transmission itself. They'll know I contacted someone. Then we move fast. Jake barked orders into his comm, his voice all business now. Delta Team, prep for covert extraction. Target, Draconis Sector, Council Residential Block Gamma 7. I want eyes on the location within the hour. Intel says heavy Council presence. Proceed with extreme caution. He cut the connection, turning back to Arya. Can you get the files ready? Almost done, she replied, her voice barely a whisper. Just be careful, Admiral. They won't hesitate. The logistical hurdles were immediate. Navigating the crowded Council City streets, teeming with security patrols and surveillance drones, required a delicate dance of holographic disguises and active cloaking technology. Delta Team, led by Sergeant Reyes, moved like ghosts, their HSA-issued gear seamlessly blending with the alien cityscape. Reyes reported in, his voice tight. Admiral, we're in position. Target location confirmed. Heavy security presence as expected. Multiple drone patrols, retinal scanners on every access point. This is going to be messy. Back on his flagship, the dauntless Jake was interrupted by a priority summons. HSA Science Minister Thorne's face materialized on the main screen, his expression a carefully controlled mask of disapproval. Admiral Phillips, I demand an explanation. I've received reports of unauthorized contact with a Draconis national. Specifically, one Arya. What was it? I don't have time for this. Jake met Thorne's gaze, his own hardening. I'm investigating the circumstances surrounding my niece's death, Minister. That investigation requires me to speak with all relevant parties. Thorne's eyes narrowed. That investigation is closed, Admiral. The Council deemed it an accident. I suggest you cease this rogue operation before you cause an incident. With all due respect, Minister, Jake's voice was low, dangerously calm. I will not be deterred. Not while her killers walk free. Not while the truth remains buried. The connection terminated, leaving Jake staring at the blank screen, his fists tight. The relationship with Thorne, already strained, had just snapped. Delta Team breached Arya's apartment, Reyes leading the charge. Stun grenades flashed, momentarily blinding the two Council security guards inside. Reyes moved with brutal efficiency, disabling them before they could react. Clear, he barked. Secure the perimeter. Arya stood frozen, her scales shimmering with fear. Let's go, Reyes said, his voice surprisingly gentle. We don't have much time. They slipped out a back exit, melting back into the city's chaotic flow, narrowly avoiding a pursuing security drone. Back on the Dauntless, the encrypted files were finally decrypting. Jake watched, his heart pounding, as lines of alien code dedicationed into schematics, research data, and chilling conclusions. Report, he barked at the tech specialist. Admiral, the specialist said, his voice shaking, the initial reports were misleading. There's evidence of deliberate sabotage within the experiment. Someone wanted it to fail, and to make sure your niece was caught in the crossfire. Jake felt a cold fury rising within him. What was the purpose of the experiment? The specialist swallowed hard. It was designed to weaponize Draconis genetic traits against humans, Admiral, to enhance their aggression, their strength, their killing efficiency. A holographic projection flickered to life, displaying Draconis DNA sequences overlaid with weapon schematics, neural implants, bio-enhancements, genetic modifications designed to turn them into living weapons. Jake stared, his mind turning. His niece. She hadn't just been a victim of an accident, she'd been a test subject. A new file appeared on the screen, labeled Project Chimera Contingency Protocol. The specialist read aloud, his voice barely audible. Evidence suggests a rogue faction within the council orchestrated the sabotage, intending to provoke a full-scale war between humans and Draconis. The goal, to destabilize the region and seize control of key resources. Jake stood motionless, the weight of the revelation crushing him. A war, deliberately engineered. His niece, a pawn in a galactic power play. He glanced at the holographic image of his niece, a bright, smiling girl with so much potential. Now just a memory. He turned away, his hand clenched into a fist. He faced a moral abyss. Release the information, potentially igniting a war that could consume trillions, or suppress it, allowing his niece's killers to escape justice. He summoned his most trusted advisors to the war room: Admiral Lewis, Commander Ramirez, and Xenocent Dr. Aegis Dr. Anya Sharma. The debate was immediate and fierce. Lewis argued for immediate retaliation, a swift and decisive strike against the council. Ramirez advocated for diplomacy, a measured response to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Sharma cautioned against hasty action, urging a thorough investigation to identify the true culprits. As the debate raged, a private comm signal chimed. It was Arya. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. "Admiral, I received a coded message from my family. They're in danger. The council knows I helped you." Before Jake could respond, the connection was severed. Sirens wailed in the background. He barked an order. "Get me a visual on Arya's apartment now." The screen flickered, showing council security forces storming her residence, weapons raised. Furniture was overturned, data storage devices smashed. It was a brutal, thorough raid. "She's a fugitive now," Ramirez said, his voice grim, with nowhere to turn. Jake looked at the faces around the war room, his decision made. He stood tall, his voice resonating with grim willpower. "Prepare a public statement. I will not rest until those who conspired to kill my niece are brought to justice. No matter who they are, no matter where they hide, the galaxy will know what they did." Thorne watched the broadcast from his opulent office, his face an impassive mask. He knew the damage such a statement could inflict. He activated a private comm channel. "Security Chief Gregor, I want Admiral Phillips monitored. Every move, every contact. I want to know everything." As Thorne was about to leave, a coded message flashed on his personal datapad. His eyes widened almost imperceptibly. He swiftly deleted the message, but a flicker of unease betrayed him. The message was from a contact within the Draconis High Council. The message: "The hounds are loose. Containment protocols initiated." The holographic table in the war room flickered, displaying schematics of the Draconis enclave. Jake rubbed his temples. The image of his niece's lifeless eyes burned into his memory. Around the table sat his most trusted advisors, their faces grim. "The council claims it was an accident," Jake began, his voice rough. "But Arya's intel paints a different picture. They were experimenting on her, trying to weaponize Draconis abilities against humans." Admiral Reyes, a veteran of countless campaigns, slammed a fist on the table. "Accident, hell, that's an act of war. We hit them and we hit them hard. Show them what happens when you spill human blood." His eyes, hard and unforgiving, reflected a desire for retribution. "Dr. Lewis, the mission's lead strategist, countered, "Admiral, a full-scale war would be catastrophic. The Council's defenses are formidable. The civilian casualties alone would be unimaginable. We need to proceed with caution." Her voice was calm, measured, a stark contrast to Reyes' fiery pronouncements. Jake felt the weight of their conflicting viewpoints pressing down on him, a crushing burden. Grief warred with duty, revenge with responsibility. I understand both your concerns, he said, his gaze sweeping across the room. But we can't let this go unanswered. We need to find the ones responsible, the ones who orchestrated this atrocity. He turned to Commander Eva Rostova, his intelligence chief. Eva, I want a list of every council member who had access to that lab, every scientist involved in the project. Find me the ones who stood to gain from this. From a war. Already on it, Admiral, Rostova replied, her fingers flying across her datapad. We're cross-referencing personnel files with known anti-human rhetoric and financial records. We'll find them. Hours blurred into a frenzy of activity. Data streams flooded the war room, analysts hunched over consoles, and the air crackled with tension. Then, Arya's voice cut through the noise, her image appearing on the holographic display. Admiral, I've identified the leader of the rogue faction. His name is Senator Vorlag. He's a powerful Draconis politician, known for his extreme views on human inferiority. Her scales shimmered nervously in the dim light. He's been pushing for increased military spending and stricter regulations on human immigration for years. Before Jake could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. Council security forces detected in the sector, a voice announced over the intercom. They're conducting a city-wide manhunt for Arya. Damn it, Jake swore. They know she's helping us. Eva, get her out of there now. Rostova barked orders into her comm, dispatching a team to extract Arya. But the council forces were already closing in. Arya, using her knowledge of the city's underbelly, guided Jake's team through a labyrinth of tunnels and abandoned maintenance shafts. They're using thermal scanners, Arya whispered, her breath coming in ragged gasps. They'll find us soon. We have safe houses scattered throughout the city, Rostova replied, her voice tight with urgency. We'll get you to one. They moved quickly, silently, shadows flitting through the darkness. Jake marveled at Arya's resourcefulness, her ability to navigate the city's hidden pathways. It was a testament to her deep understanding of the Draconis infrastructure, knowledge she was now using to defy her own people. As they reached a dilapidated access tunnel, Arya suddenly stopped, her hand raised. Wait, she hissed. I'm picking up a comm signal, encrypted, but I can crack it. She worked quickly, her fingers dancing across her datapad. After a moment, her eyes widened in horror. It's Vorlag, she said, her voice trembling. He's talking to someone. About a false flag operation. He's planning an attack on a human colony, and he's going to blame it on a rogue Draconis group. He wants war, Jake realized, his blood turning to ice. He's going to use that attack to rally support for a full-scale invasion. We have to stop him, Arya said, her voice filled with desperation. We have to expose him before it's too late. I'm launching a preemptive strike against Vorlag's headquarters, Jake declared, his voice hardening with perseverance. We'll disrupt his plans and expose his treachery to the council. Meanwhile, on a secure comm line, Ambassador Thorne contacted Vorlag. Senator, I assure you, Phillips's investigation is contained. I've convinced the HSA to remain neutral. You have nothing to worry about. Thorne subtly sabotaged Jake's plans, leaking the details of the preemptive strike to Vorlag's security forces. The information was carefully disguised, a minor adjustment to a patrol route here, a slight delay in a sensor sweep there, but the effect was devastating. When Jake's strike force arrived at Vorlag's headquarters, they walked straight into an ambush. Draconis soldiers poured out of the shadows, energy weapons blazing. The humans fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. We're taking heavy casualties, Rostova shouted over the comm. We need to pull back. Jake fought his way to Arya's side, shielding her from the incoming fire. We have to get out of here, he yelled. As they retreated, a stray energy blast struck Arya, sending her crashing to the ground. She cried out in pain, clutching her side. Arya. Jake knelt beside her, his heart pounding in his chest. Her scales were slick with blood. We have to get you to a medic. No, she gasped, her voice weak. You have to stop Vorlag. The attack. Jake hesitated, torn between his duty and his loyalty to Arya. He couldn't leave her, not like this. But if he didn't stop Vorlag, countless lives would be lost. Rostova, get Arya to the extraction point, he ordered, his voice tight with emotion. I'll cover you. He watched as Rostova and 2 other soldiers dragged Arya away, their faces etched with concern. Then he turned back to face the enemy, his weapon blazing. Later, back on his flagship, Jake received a report from his intelligence team. Admiral, we've confirmed that the ambush was orchestrated using information leaked from within the HSA. Rostova's voice was grim. The data packets originated from Ambassador Thorne's office. Thorne's betrayal hit Jake hard, a gut punch that left him reeling. He had trusted Thorne, relied on him to navigate the treacherous waters of galactic politics. Now he realized that Thorne had been playing him all along. News of Jake's failed strike and Arya's injury reached the Galactic Council, further escalating tensions and pushing the galaxy closer to the brink of war. The Council hardliners, emboldened by Vorlag's propaganda, were clamoring for immediate action against humanity. Just when Jake felt like he was drowning in a sea of betrayal and despair, a message appeared on his comm screen. It was encrypted, untraceable, and from an unknown source. Admiral Phillips, the message read, I have information that can expose Vorlag's treachery. If you want to prevent a war, meet me at coordinates. Jake stared at the message, his mind racing. It could be a trap, a desperate attempt by Vorlag to lure him into the open. But it could also be his only chance to defend the galaxy. He looked at Arya, lying unconscious in the med bay, her face pale and drawn. He thought of his niece, her life stolen by the Council's machinations. He knew what he had to do. Jake, don't, Arya murmured, her eyes fluttering open. It's a trap. Don't trust them. We don't have a choice, Arya, Jake said, his voice soft but firm. It might be our only chance. Arya looked at him, her eyes filled with pain and concern. Please, be careful. The comms went silent, the encrypted signal severed. Jake stared at the console, his eyes hardened. A former Council intelligence officer. He repeated the words aloud, the taste of distrust bitter on his tongue. Jax, run a complete background check, everything. I want to know what this guy had for breakfast 5 cycles ago. He turned to Lieutenant Park, his second in command. Isolate the signal source. I want to know where this Jax is broadcasting from. Park nodded, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Sir, preliminary scans indicate. Council space. Deep within, actually. Jake swore under his breath. Trusting a defector was a gamble, especially one claiming to have dirt on Vorlag. But the alternative, ignoring the information, was potentially catastrophic. Jax claimed Vorlag was planning a false flag operation, an attack on a human colony disguised as an HSA assault. What's the target? Jake asked, the question barely a whisper. Colony Zeta, Park replied, her voice grim. Jax says Vorlag expects minimal resistance, claims theirs. An ongoing dispute between the colonists and the HSA. The blood ran cold in Jake's veins. Zeta, a small, independent-minded colony on the fringes of human space. They'd been complaining about HSA tariffs for months, threatening to secede. They wouldn't trust a warning from the HSA, even if it was to save their lives. Verify Jax's claims, Jake ordered. Start with Zeta's defense grid, see if there are any unusual gaps or weaknesses. He paused, his gaze hardening, and check for any communication between Thorne and anyone outside the HSA. He knew it was a long shot, but a gut feeling gnawed at him. Thorne had been too eager to dismiss the initial reports of Vorlag's activity. Meanwhile, in the medical bay, Arya stirred. The world swam back into focus, the sterile white walls of the med bay a stark contrast to the vibrant colors she was used to. A throbbing pain echoed in her skull. She tried to sit up, but restraints held her firmly in place. Jake, she croaked, her voice hoarse. Frustration welled up inside her, a desperate need to be involved, to do something. To atone, Jake, ignoring his reservations, used the information Jax had provided to send a coded message to Zeta, a desperate plea for them to prepare for an attack. But the colonists, fueled by anti-HSA sentiment and Thorne's subtle propaganda, dismissed it as a scare tactic, a clumsy attempt to strong-arm them back into compliance. Thorne, in the shadows, smiled thinly. His work was done. The stage was set. The attack came swiftly, brutally. Vorlag's forces, disguised in HSA colors, descended upon Zeta like vultures. Civilian ships were vaporized, settlements reduced to rubble. The colony's meager defenses were overwhelmed in minutes. The broadcast went live across the galaxy. Images of burning cities, panicked civilians, and Vorlag's fabricated message blaming the human system's alliance for the atrocity. Jake watched the carnage unfold on the bridge of his flagship, the Dauntless, his face a mask of fury and despair. Helm set course for Zeta, maximum speed. As the fleet warped into the Zeta system, Jake received a chilling update from Park. "Sir, our intel on Vorlag's fleet. It's outdated, positions are wrong, ship classifications are inaccurate, it's like we're fighting blind." Thorne. It had to be Thorne. He was still feeding Vorlag information, sabotaging the HSA from within. But then, a flicker of an idea ignited in Jake's mind. Thorne's betrayal, as damaging as it was, could be used against Vorlag. "Communications, prepare a false fleet deployment order," Jake barked. "Target: the supposed location of our primary supply depot in the Kepler system. Make it sound urgent, like we're diverting all available forces to protect it." He knew Thorne would intercept the message, relaying the false information to Vorlag. Vorlag, confident in his superior intelligence, would take the bait. And he did. Vorlag, eager to cripple the HSA's supply lines, committed his forces to the Kepler system, leaving his flank exposed. Jake pounced. The Dauntless and her escorts ripped through Vorlag's weakened defenses, tearing apart cruisers and battleships with brutal efficiency. The Dauntless locked onto Vorlag's flagship, the Dominator. "Prepare to board," Jake ordered, his voice cold. "I want Vorlag alive." Within hours, Vorlag was in custody, the evidence of his conspiracy seized and broadcast across the galaxy. The carefully constructed facade of HSA aggression crumbled, replaced by the stark reality of Vorlag's treachery. Thorne, realizing his exposure was imminent, attempted to flee in a stolen shuttle, but Jake had anticipated his move. "Intercept that shuttle," Jake ordered. "I want Thorne alive too." The shuttle was quickly brought to a halt, tractor beams locking it in place. Thorne was brought to the Dauntless, escorted by heavily armed Marines. Jake stood waiting for him in the briefing room, his eyes burning with righteous anger. "You thought you were so clever, Thorne," Jake said, his voice low and dangerous. "You thought you could play both sides, sacrificing innocent lives for your own twisted agenda." Thorne sneered. "I did what I had to do, Phillips. For humanity, the Council is weak, corrupt, they were holding us back. By helping Vorlag slaughter colonists," Jake spat. "That's your idea of protecting humanity. Collateral damage," Thorne said, his eyes glinting with fanaticism. "A necessary evil." "You're under arrest for treason, Thorne," Jake said, his voice devoid of emotion. "You'll face a full trial before the HSA Senate. Your crimes will be exposed." As news of Vorlag's treachery spread, chaos erupted within the Galactic Council. Accusations flew, alliances fractured, and the very foundations of the organization began to crumble. In the medical bay, Arya watched the reports on a flickering screen, a faint smile gracing her lips. Jake had done it. He had averted a full-scale war. But even as she celebrated this victory, a new unease settled in her stomach. The Council was destabilizing, and in the power vacuum, something far more dangerous was stirring. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was a cacophony of screeching, hissing, and guttural pronouncements. Jake watched the hollow feed from his command center, the faces of the various representatives swirling in a chaotic storm of outrage and accusation. The felinoids were spitting venomous condemnations, their fur filled. The Crivorians pulsed with agitated light, their bioluminescent bodies flickering erratically. The normally stoic Andromedans remained eerily silent, their multifaceted eyes reflecting the swirling chaos. Vorlag's exposure had ripped a hole in the fragile fabric of galactic order. A power vacuum was emerging, a dangerous undertow threatening to pull the entire council under. Jake intercepted fragmented communications, hushed deals between the Volspirate and the Rigelian bloc, desperate pleas from the smaller, less powerful species, and the chilling silence of the Draconis. The air in the command center crackled with tension, thick with the scent of ozone and recycled air. In the medical bay, Arya, still weak from her ordeal, bypassed security protocols, her Draconis fingers flying across the console. The sterile white walls seemed to close in on her as she hunted for information, the rhythmic beeping of life support systems a constant, mocking reminder of her vulnerability. She found it a secure channel, usually reserved for high-level council officials. The intercepted message was fragmented, garbled with static, but the chilling phrase cut through the noise. Zeta, acceptable losses. Back on the Dauntless, the HSA investigation into Thorn was gaining momentum. Jake reviewed the evidence, encrypted files, coded messages, and financial transactions that painted a disturbing picture of betrayal within the ranks. A network of collaborators stretching from the lower decks to the highest echelons of the military and government. A pre-recorded message from Thorn surfaced, his face gaunt, his eyes burning with a fanaticism that sent a chill down Jake's spine. "They offer us peace," Thorn rasped, his voice distorted by static, "but it is a lie. The aliens will never accept us as equals. We must secure our future, our dominance. Humanity first at any cost." Thorn's interrogation, conducted by a team of HSA psychologists, revealed the existence of a hidden faction within the HSA, the Purists. They believed in human exceptionalism, in the manifest destiny of humanity to rule the galaxy. They viewed the Council as a corrupt and decadent institution, a threat to human progress. Evidence mounted, confirming that the Purists had been secretly arming human colonies, stockpiling weapons and resources, preparing for a potential war against the Council. Satellite surveillance showed clandestine supply runs, hidden bunkers, and training exercises conducted under the cover of darkness. On Zeta, the colonists were growing restless. Vorlag's false flag operation had shattered their trust in their leaders. Public demonstrations erupted in the capital city, fueled by anger and a desperate search for answers. Holographic projections of Vorlag's face were defaced with digital graffiti, the words liar and traitor emblazoned across his features. From the crowds emerged Eva Rostova, a charismatic engineer with a fiery spirit and a keen intellect. She spoke of reconciliation, of building a new alliance based on mutual trust and respect. Her words resonated with the colonists, offering a glimmer of hope in the face of despair. "We have been manipulated," she declared, her voice amplified by makeshift speakers, "but we will not be victims. We will choose our own destiny." On the fringes of council space, a new threat was emerging. Sensor readings detected unusual energy signatures, strange gravitational anomalies. The Krill Collective, a hive mind species that assimilated other civilizations, was probing the edges of the galaxy, testing the Council's weakened defenses. Holographic simulations depicted the Krill Collective's modus operandi, swarms of bio-engineered drones descending upon unsuspecting worlds, consuming everything in their path, transforming entire civilizations into extensions of their hive mind. The images were horrifying, a chilling reminder of the existential threat facing the galaxy. Jake, using intel provided by Arya and Jax, discovered a disturbing connection. The Purists had been in contact with the Krill Collective, engaging in clandestine communications, exchanging data and resources. The implications were staggering. The purists believed they could control the Krill, that they could harness their destructive power to eliminate the Council, paving the way for human supremacy. They saw the Krill as a tool, a weapon to be wielded in their quest for galactic domination. Arya, working tirelessly in the lab, analyzed Krill communication patterns, searching for a weakness, a flaw in their hive mind. She discovered a vulnerability, a specific frequency that disrupted their neural network, potentially exploitable with the right technology. Jake made a decision. He would send a delegation to Zeta, offering assistance in rebuilding and establishing a new alliance based on mutual trust. It was a gamble, but it was the only way to prevent a full-scale war and unite the galaxy against the Krill Collective. Jake and Eva met on the surface of Zeta, the ravaged landscape a stark reminder of the devastation caused by Vorlag's treachery. They began negotiating a treaty, a framework for a new alliance, their voices echoing in the desolate air. "We must learn from the past," Eva said, her eyes filled with willpower, "and build a better future together." Suddenly, the ground began to tremble. Sirens blared. The Krill had arrived. Swarms of bio-engineered drones descended from the sky, their chitinous bodies glistening in the harsh sunlight. The attack was swift and brutal, forcing Jake and Eva to work together to defend the colony, side by side, human and colonist, united against a common enemy. During the battle, evidence emerged, revealing that the purists had sabotaged the colony's defenses, disabling shield generators and communication arrays, hoping to weaken it and make it easier for the Krill to assimilate. The betrayal cut deep, a bitter reminder of the darkness that lurked within humanity. Then a distress call crackled over the comms, a voice filled with panic and desperation. "This is Earth Central Command. We are under attack. The purists, they've launched. The Krill, everywhere." The line went dead. Thorne's purist faction had launched their attack on key HSA infrastructure while the fleet was away, initiating their plan for a human-led galaxy, working in conjunction with the Krill Collective. Jake watched the HSA fleet split, holographic projections shimmering in the command center. Half would race to Earth, a desperate gamble to defend humanity's cradle. The other half would bolster Zeta, buying time and protecting the colonists. Helm, set course for Zeta, maximum burn. The order was clipped, betraying none of the turmoil churning within him. On Earth, chaos reigned. Krill-derived technology, twisted and weaponized by the purists, had neutralized planetary defense grids. Major cities became hunting grounds, the sky choked with swarms of the insectal horrors. Admiral Sarah Lewis, her face grim, rallied the remaining HSA forces. "Hold the line," she roared over the comms, her voice a beacon of defiance amidst the encroaching darkness. "Every minute we hold them is another minute for Jake." At Zeta, the situation was no less dire. Jake stood beside Eva Rostova, the colony leader's face etched with perseverance. "They're coming in waves, Admiral," she said, her voice tight. "But we know this terrain. We'll make them bleed for every inch." They coordinated a desperate defense, using the canyons and mesas as natural choke points, ambushing the Krill with repurposed mining equipment and guerrilla tactics. Then, a breakthrough. Arya's voice, urgent and breathless, crackled over the comms. "Jake, I've analyzed the purest modifications to the Krill communication network. They inadvertently amplified the Krill's inherent weakness, a susceptibility to high-frequency resonance." Hope flickered within Jake. "Can we exploit it?" "I believe so. If we can broadcast a specific frequency, it could disrupt their hive mind." Jake, his mind racing, barked orders. "Get me everything we have on HSA comms technology. Rostova, prepare your people. We're about to turn the tide." He formulated a plan, a desperate gamble to weaponize sound, to turn the Krill's greatest strength into their downfall. As the first HSA ships broke orbit above Earth, the battle reached its crescendo. Purist fighters swarmed, their weapons spitting energy while the Krill descended upon the ravaged cities. Jake watched on his comm screen as Thorn's face appeared cold and implacable. "Phillips," Thorn said, his voice devoid of emotion. "You cannot stop what is coming. Humanity must be cleansed, reshaped to survive." "You're wrong, Thorn," Jake snarled. "Humanity doesn't need to be purged. It needs to be defended." Simultaneously at Zeta, Eva Rostova led the charge. Modified HSA comms units, jury-rigged to mining vehicles, blared the disruptive frequency. The effect was immediate. Krill swarms faltered, their movements erratic, their coordination shattered. The colonists, armed with makeshift weapons and renewed hope, pushed back against the weakened horde. On Earth, the disruption of the Krill hive mind threw the purest forces into disarray. Their attacks became uncoordinated, their formations broken. The HSA fleet, though outnumbered, seized the advantage, their superior training and technology now amplified by the enemy's confusion. Jake finally cornered Thorn aboard his flagship, the battle raging around them. "This ends here, Thorn." Thorn, his eyes filled with a chilling fanaticism, raised his weapon. "Humanity will thank me for this, Phillips." They fought, a brutal clash of ideologies and desperation. Jake, fueled by grief and righteous anger, fought with a ferocity he hadn't known he possessed. Finally, he disarmed Thorn, pinning him against the bulkhead. Thorn looked at Jake, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "I was wrong," he whispered. "I sought to save humanity, but I only brought it closer to destruction." With a final act of redemption, Thorn activated a self-destruct sequence, targeting the remaining Krill technology on Earth. The explosion rocked the ship, engulfing Thorn in a fiery embrace. With the Krill threat diminished and the Purists defeated, Jake returned to the Galactic Council, his heart heavy but his grit firm. He presented irrefutable evidence of Vorlag's crimes, the Council's complicity, and the Purists' treachery. The evidence was overwhelming. The Council chambers fell silent as the votes were cast. One by one, the representatives of the galaxy condemned the old order. The Galactic Council dissolved itself, its legacy tarnished by corruption and prejudice. In its place, a new Galactic Assembly was established, founded on principles of equality, justice, and mutual cooperation. Arya, her voice filled with hope and purpose, was appointed as humanity's ambassador to the new Galactic Assembly. "We must learn from the mistakes of the past," she declared. "We must strive for understanding and reconciliation between species. Only then can we build a truly peaceful and prosperous galaxy." Later, Jake learned the truth about his niece. Her unique genetic code, a rare anomaly, made her immune to the Krill assimilation process. She was a threat, a living antibody to their expansion. That's why she was targeted. That's why she died. Jake stood before his niece's memorial, a simple stone marker overlooking the Earth he had fought so hard to protect. The weight of grief still lingered, but it was now tempered with a sense of peace. Her death, though tragic, had not been in vain. It had sparked a revolution, a transformation that had reshaped the galaxy and paved the way for a brighter future. He whispered, "You made a difference." The sun set, casting long shadows across the memorial. Jake stood there for a long moment, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face, the gentle breeze in his hair. He knew the road ahead would be prolonged and difficult, but he also knew that humanity and the galaxy had a chance for peace, a chance for justice,